Support comes from Hughes Federal Credit Union, a local not-for-profit cooperative offering Diana Medeiros debit cards that generate support for the Tucson Wildlife Center. Details are at hughesfcu.org/MADARAS. Member NCUA.
Welcome to AZPM News Daily, a wrap-up of all the day's news from Arizona Public Media. I'm Steve Jess. On this edition, Tucson's population barely grows as the suburbs boom. A study shows water is expensive for some, but almost free for others.
Vast volumes of water being provided through the Bureau of Reclamation on the Colorado River system for literally $0.
And a local scientist finds searching for life on nearby star systems is complicated.
Molecules can exist not just in the atmosphere of a planet that orbits it, but also in the atmosphere of the star itself.
Starting us off today, Pima County's population grew by 7,000 people between last July and this July, but only about 10% of that growth was in the city of Tucson, according to the latest figures from the Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity. Tucson still ranks as the state's second most populous city after Phoenix, but it grew by less than 1% in 1 year's time, while Marana added nearly 4,000 new residents. In nearby Pinal and Maricopa counties, suburbs like Apache Junction and Queen Creek are also growing faster than the cities. Overall, Arizona grew by 97,000 people in 1 year, bringing the population to just over 7.7 million. Farmers in the lower Colorado River Basin are getting a cheaper deal on water than cities are, according to a new report from the UCLA Institute of the Environment and Sustainability. Katya Mendoza has more on that.
The study looked at the wholesale cost of water in Arizona, California, and Nevada. Noah Garrison, a researcher with the Institute, says researchers investigated whether agricultural districts and suppliers could be paying less for their water compared to cities and towns.
What we found was somewhat shocking that there are large volumes of water, and in fact vast volumes of water, being provided through the Bureau of Reclamation on the Colorado River system for literally $0 an acre foot.
The study found that water obtained through federal projects is cheaper than water obtained through state infrastructure or from other surface water projects and sellers. I'm Katya Mendoza, AZPM News.
The United States and Mexico have settled a dispute over water deliveries that Mexico owes the U.S. The Department of Agriculture says Mexico plans to deliver more than 200,000 acre-feet of water to the United States starting this week. The deal comes after President Donald Trump threatened Mexico with a 5% tariff if it doesn't release the water it owes under a 1944 treaty. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says the deliveries won't affect everyday Mexicans' water supply. The country says extraordinary drought made it impossible to deliver the water it owes in time. A newly created U.S. Wildland Fire Service, designed to address wildfires in Arizona and other states, has hired its first leader. Murphy Woodhouse reports Brian Fennessy led the Orange County Fire Authority in Southern California.
Fennessy has nearly 50 years of experience, which began in the late 1970s on elite federal hotshot crews and other wildfire teams. He's been with Orange County since 2018, according to his LinkedIn page. That long and diverse fire career is part of why his hiring has been welcomed by some in the wildland fire community, including the advocacy group Grassroots Wildland Firefighters. Luke Mayfield is its president.
If you haven't walked in those shoes and done those jobs and moved up through those leadership ranks, then I think it becomes very difficult to provide quality leadership.
In a letter recently sent to his current staff, Fennessy said that the new service presents a historic opportunity to, quote, elevate the profession of wildland firefighting. The service will be formed by consolidating the 4 fire programs under the U.S. Department of Interior. I'm Murphy Woodhouse.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration plans to add what's called a black box warning to COVID-19 vaccines. That's the strongest kind of warning the agency can issue. But Arizona Public Health Association President Will Humble says the move isn't as alarming as it sounds. Humble says the vaccines have been linked to a rare and temporary heart inflammation that occurs mainly in young men up to age 19 and doesn't mean the vaccine is not safe. Humble is a longtime vaccine advocate and says adding the warning is reasonable. More than 400 drugs currently carry the same kind of black box warning. Arizonans are smoking less, and while that is good for public health, Greg Haney reports from Phoenix it's also leaving one early childhood development agency looking for new sources of funding.
In 2006, Arizona voters approved an 80-cent a pack tax on cigarettes that funded the First Things First organization with about $165 million a year. Nearly 20 years later, that organization annually is taking in less than $90 million from the tax. First Things First provides grants to smaller community groups and parents to help with things like improving childcare and ensuring children are ready for kindergarten. The head of the organization, Joe Barbo, wants legislative support to extend that levy to vape products. A similar effort failed to pass in committee earlier this year. Greg Haney, Phoenix.
There's some good news for holiday travelers headed to the Grand Canyon. All South Rim lodges will reopen this Wednesday to overnight guests after crews completed major repairs to a water line. El Tovar, Bright Angel, and Yavapai are once again taking reservations after they all closed earlier this month. The park will continue to operate, though, under enhanced water restrictions. A planetary scientist at the University of Arizona is on a research team focusing on a star system that could have the potential for alien life. Tony Perkins reports.
A series of papers appearing in the scientific publication Astrophysical Journal Letters takes a new look at planets orbiting TRAPPIST-1. It's a red dwarf star, 40 light-years from Earth. U of A researcher Sukrit Ranjan co-authored one of the papers that looks at the chance one of the planets has an atmosphere. But he also suggests the star it orbits could have an atmosphere too.
It turns out that molecules can exist not just in the atmosphere of a planet that orbits it, but also in the atmosphere of the star itself.
The TRAPPIST-1 exoplanets are among those circling within what scientists call the Goldilocks zone, where conditions allow water to exist on the surface if the planet has an atmosphere. I'm Tony Perkins, AZPM News.
And now you're caught up on the stories we've covered today at Arizona Public Media. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to AZPM News Daily wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Steve Jess, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Support comes from Hughes Federal Credit Union, a local not-for-profit offering debit cards by Tucson artist Diana Medeiros with designs that celebrate the Sonoran Desert. Details are at hughesfcu.org/MADARAS. Member NCUA.